I am wishing you so many blessings in taking that trigger point release class exercise with you throughout your life. And that is the beginning of opening a door into what can be a world of more coherence, more beauty, more breath in the spine and the nervous system. So I am a chiropractor, and the work that we do is somewhat unique in that it's extremely gentle and it involves a lot more presence and less force than most types of other work that you might have been exposed to. So I wanted to invite you on a little magic carpet ride so that you could see how the trigger point, that very gentle trigger point release exercise can open the possibilities of what's possible in the nervous system, which, by the way, is the first system to develop in the whole body. It develops at 17 days gestation, which is extraordinary. We have a nervous system and a notochord before we even have a heart or blood or organs. I mean, it's the first thing to develop, and its job is to detect and correct and optimize function of every single organ, action, and function in the body. So the reason that I kind of geek out about the nervous system is it's critically important, and it's awesome for it to be at its very best. So let's show you a little demonstration. A lot of times what I like to start with when I'm showing a demonstration of this care is I like to look at a few different things. One is I like to look at just when someone is seated, this is just, I've asked you to sit naturally for you, okay? You don't have to try and make anything happen or whatnot, just sit comfortably for you. So I'm just looking at her comfortable posture right now. And part of what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the way that the center point of her trochanter and her pelvis lines up, straight up, with her shoulder. Her shoulder's actually, I would say, ever so slightly back from her pelvis, but it's fairly close. However, if you continue up, her center point of her ear is about an inch forward of these two center points. So let's see if I can go. This is actually a little bit backward, and this is a little bit forward. So actually the head is, I would say, 2/3 of an inch forward of the center of the trochanter, and her shoulder is about 1/3 of an inch backward. So it's just sometimes it's good to have a reference point for where does ease feel like in this moment. And then we're gonna make a few contacts on her spine, and afterward we'll see if her posture changes a little bit. And perhaps I'll answer the question at some point, why does posture matter? Stay tuned for that answer. Okay, so, hi. So I often start at the feet. The reason that I start at the feet is because the nervous system, as you may know, it's like an extension of the brain that goes all the way down throughout the entire spine into the pelvis area. And if you think of the nervous system, you think of that spinal cord, if you will. That spinal cord is a lot like electrical wiring on a house. So electrical wiring can be bent and move around corners, but once it's in place, it's not designed to be stretched or pulled. So our nervous system is much the same way. In fact, I have to show you this. So, fishing pole, right? I love this. So we all know that if we catch a fish, the pole, what does it do? Bend, right? So it bends because it's trying to redistribute the tension through the line all the way through the pole. So similarly with the body, the spinal cord is a lot like the fishing line. If there's tension in it, that tension translates through the entire system. So in this case, set my fishing pole down. In this case, that tension, if there is tension, it would translate not only all the way through the nervous system, but all the way through every nerve in the body, including down into the Achilles tendon. So a lot of times people have plantar fasciitis and different kinds of repeat ankle injuries, knee injuries, not just because they have a weak ankle or knee, but because there's tension in the nervous system and it's translating from up there all the way down and affecting or pulling on the different ligaments and tendons. So I often go here. In fact, I always go to the feet because it just gives me some information about how much tethering or ease there is in the nervous system and where it's at, whether it's at the top or the bottom, or if there's a pulling in this flexion, extension, or up and down version versus side to side. Okay, so just going to check in for a moment and get a little bit of a sense of each ankle. And I know you can't see this, but there's actually quite a bit of difference between her left ankle right now and her right ankle. Can you feel that, by the way? Mm-hmm. So the left ankle is a lot tighter, higher up in the spine. And the right ankle has quite a bit more give in it. Another thing I look at is leg length. So right now the left ankle, it's interesting that the left was so tight. The left is actually also short. Okay, so it's short by about 1/2 inch. And go ahead and turn your head to the right. And left. And back to middle. Okay. Okay. So we're going to start pretty simply here in a moment, but I'm just going to get a little bit more information. I'm not going to try and explain everything that I'm doing because that would get a little overwhelming at some point. So I'm just going to do a couple of things and then I'm going to ask her to breathe into this area. So give me just a moment. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to bring just a little bit more. I'm going to ask her actually, would you mind breathing right into this area? And I'm just going to bring a little bit of information in a little figure 8 pattern. And then right, super light, much like that exercise that we just did earlier. At that depth, that tissue depth, connective tissue. We're working super, super light. And she's just going to breathe, bring her breath and movement and energy right to that left upper part of the pelvis. And by the way, she said it was okay to disclose this is not her first spinal entrainment before. And some people are going to move more than others naturally. So don't have the expectation it's going to look exactly like this on your first visit if you decide to ever get care here. But on the other hand, it's nice to kind of show visually a little bit of what's going on when there's awareness in the spine, that she has, you know, that capacity to really bring a lot of breath and movement energy to this area and to start transforming that area on her own with very subtle input. Take your time, and when you're ready, you can uncross your ankle. And already, really big difference in that left ankle. I don't know if the camera can see that, but that left ankle is really easily able to move up and down through that range of motion, which again is like the whole spinal cord. The way that the spinal cord anchors into the top part of the neck, as well as the lumbar and sacrum area. And when that has more ease, to move up and down, that ease translates all the way down the legs and into that Achilles tendon. It's really, really, really awesome. And her legs also evened. So with that increase in ease in the nervous system, it actually structurally lengthened her leg to where it's even with the right leg. Isn't that cool? Yay. So now we have a little bit different pattern. Let me check in here. So I'm hearing a question, maybe from someone. So what are you doing now? While I did say I wasn't going to try and explain everything, a simple analogy for what we're doing is I'm looking for where is there something that's whole or working really well? Where is there energy in her system? So in order to get to a destination, if we get into our car, we have to, these days, have some kind of fuel for the car. You know, if we have a Tesla, it's got to be still some kind of energy in the battery. Solar would be amazing. And most people still in this day and age use some kind of gas for their car. So we've got to have fuel, right? So I'm looking for the fuel. I'm also looking for, okay, what kind of car is she driving? How is she using her energy? What's the vehicle for how we bring the energy through the system in order to arrive at the destination of where we want to go? That probably sounds a little esoteric, but let's say that we're in a process of acknowledging what's going on in the world. Let's say that we're acknowledging some suffering or some grief or some loss. And sometimes that's personal, sometimes it's in the area around us, but a lot of times that experience will be stored in the connective tissue, which is where we started with that exercise earlier, the connective tissue level, which is much lighter, just below the surface of the skin, but before you get to the muscles. So we're looking at that. We're looking at also, let's say we wanted to bring more available energy, not only to the connective tissue, but let's say we wanted to bring more love into relationship with acknowledging suffering, so that the love or coherence or spaciousness or peace is stored at a different tissue depth. Okay, so some of what I'm doing is just kind of checking in with her and seeing what's going on with her right now. Where does she have available energy? Where does she need to have more energy? And how can I help facilitate or bridge the gap with what she's doing already? So now I've found that we're actually going to, great. So we're going to actually start with connective tissue, which is life force energy, which is what I call the season of discovery. I'm using a lot of terms. You can let them go in one ear and out the other if you like. But at any rate, we're going to bring some energy from connective tissue, and then we're going to bring a little bit of a wave-like phenomena. It's called the intelligence is the lower mind. So we're going to bring a little bit, and the lower mind likes to have a little bit of motion, almost like a dolphin-like movement. So you may see her moving a little bit in that fashion at some point. Okay, and we're going to go all the way to coccyx or tailbone. Let's make sure we're still there. Oh, interesting. Yep, we can go there. Cool. And oh, yummy. Okay, cool. So, life force energy. Lower mind, life force. Show me right here. Life force. There we go. Lower mind, life force, lower mind, life force, lower mind. There we go. More coherence through the nervous system, through the connective tissue, bringing a little bit more of a healing wave right there from coccyx all the way up to that. Excuse me, this way. Bioenergetic. There we go. Thank you. There's the wave. Beautiful. Back up. So we're generating a healing wave that connects both areas of the spine, the lower part of the neck, all the way with coccyx, so that her brain is able to locate these two locations and actually create more integrity in the entire system, a system which self-organizes. To find just a little bit of fuel stored. Oh yeah, more medially. There we go. Stored in the mid-thoracic part of the spine, right there. Bioenergetic, and a little bit of There we go. Lower mind. Lower mind has the ability to lift the standard and also share information. So we're sharing that information at T8 or so, which is the mid-thoracic spine, which has to do with the sympathetic system. And helping her brain and body be able to find the information stored in the sympathetics and help to bring it back up into the parasympathetic state so that her body can move from defense into growth physiology more and more readily, creating more peace, more more ease, more coherence. Great. Part of what I've been noticing is the way that she's been able to reorganize not only the lower part of the thoracic spine, but she's now getting more breath along with the motion or the movement up into the upper part of the thoracics, which goes to the upper lungs, the heart. Again, it has a lot to do with the sympathetics. So a lot of times people can be in a state of anxiety or depression or just a state of like unease or agitation. And when we have this kind of wave-like motion along with the breath, the healing wave, the respiratory wave we actually call it, when that breath, even for just a moment, goes through the system like this, it completely alters and resets the system so we have new available possibilities, not only in that moment, but in life. Not only now, not only 5 minutes from now, but hours from now and even years from now. Next time a stressor or something comes up that might remind it of this state, her body is wiring itself to remember her wholeness in an instant. And to be able to recall that. I know you're still kind of cooking, huh? Feel way more ease there, huh? Wow. And so when I'm feeling her spine now, there's actually a softness through the layering of the connective tissue, which again is right below the surface of the skin and before the muscles. And that's the part of the body that tends to house what we call, the archetype would be the survivor, okay? So the survivor, its job is just simply to survive. And what we've just done is we've brought a little more coherence with the lower mind's capacity to set standards, to raise the bar. And we've brought some of that energy into the survivor so that the survivor can go, okay, we've got this. Okay, I can breathe. Can I breathe now? Yes, I can breathe now. Oh, okay. So it's a new context. So there's a softness again through her spine. I also noticed again earlier the angling of this whole thoracic spine has changed. There's also more softness down through the lumbar part of the spine and even extending into the sacrum. Yeah. So there's more that I could share. I am going to close just for the moment by showing you this super cool picture. This is one of my very favorites. I hope I'm getting this on here, but I just love this photograph, or rather this picture of the nervous system, because it really shows, again, how that spinal cord anchors into the neck and then all the way down into the lumbar and the sacrum, and how every single part of that cord connects with every single part in the body, all the way to the tips of our toes, all the way down our arms. You have no idea. In 15 years of practice, I've had so many people come in with carpal tunnel, quote, or with, pain in their arms. Musicians, a lot of musicians. I'm a musician myself, so I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of musicians that have had a lot of problems with their arms. And if you follow the nerves then go up into the neck and the lower, or the upper part of the back and the lower part of the neck. And if there's any tension or torsion on any of those parts of the spine, that affects everything else that it goes to. Last fun fact for the evening, until we have our Q&A session in a few minutes. 2/3 of the nervous system go to organ structures. So a lot of times people think, oh, I only need to go to a chiropractor if I've got sciatica, or if I've got a headache, or if I've got pain. Well, guess what? Only 1/3 of the nervous system can actually generate pain signals. And pain is the last thing to appear and the first thing to disappear, much like a check engine light on a car. So hopefully you don't wait to change your oil until your check engine light is on, because it's much better to change your oil regularly, right? And it's similar with the body. You know, if you have pain, it's a really important thing to pay attention to, but that's your body's last ditch effort to say, hey, stop, pay attention, do something different, right? And meanwhile, 2/3 of that nervous system is going to organ structure. So if you want to optimize your pancreas, your liver function, your lung function, the vitality of the cells that go to the heart, it's always a good starting point to start with the health and vibrance and integrity of the nervous system, because its job is to detect, correct, and optimize function of the entire human body. And most people, unfortunately, we weren't taught this in school. I think we should be. So part of my job right now is just letting people know how important the nervous system is. And, you know, if you're near enough to us to get care with us, we would love to assist you with that. And if you're not near to us, you know, check out give us a call, let us know. We'd love to connect you with a chiropractor or someone that can help you, or do some searches. But whatever you need to do to optimize function of the nervous system, so important. All right. So we're just kind of coming back because I was just curious, compared to where we started and where we are now, where her alignment is in her posture. So here we are at pelvis. I'm going to go straight up, and actually that's pretty well in alignment. So her shoulder, which was backward of her pelvis, it's now in line with her pelvis. Her head is still a little bit forward, but I would say not as much forward as before. And because her shoulders came forward, it actually means that her head is not as far forward of her shoulders. So what I tell people on a physical level is every inch forward your head is of your shoulders, it doubles the weight of your head. So if you had, let's say, a 10-pound head and your head was an inch forward, physically it would be like 20 pounds of pressure on your back and on the whole rest of your spine. Much like carrying a bag of groceries out here versus holding it really close to you, just on a very mechanical basis. It's more ideal for certain points to line up over each other and to kind of counterbalance. That way you're not wasting energy, okay? But as you might guess, if you try to straighten up and there's tension in the nervous system, the body will try and pull itself out of alignment. And if I get my fishing pole, I can show how that is. Again, if there's tension in the line and we pull on the pole, like the pole in its infinite wisdom is going to bend to accommodate for that tension. Now, if we release the fish or catch the fish, the pole will tend to straighten, which is pretty awesome. And the analogy is much akin to the fact that spinal cord is anchored into the top and the bottom of the spinal column. And if there's pulling, our body will try and shorten the distance between the head and the sacrum. And the way that it does that is usually by hunching the head forward and bending us kind of like this. So in order to, when we release the tension on the cord, our posture naturally tends to improve, especially the more resilient and flexible we are. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to answering any of your questions that you'd like to post in the comments. So I look forward to answering some of those in a moment. Is there anything that you'd like to share either with me or maybe with our audience, because they've just seen something kind of unusual and amazing and extraordinary in my worldview But they might be thinking like, did she just move that way on her own? Did she just make it up? Like, what do you want to say anything about that? Or just about your experience?
All right.
Either
Sure,
way.
sure. Sure, yes. Well, I just find what just happened and what I've experienced before through your care really amazing in that my body responds in a very spontaneous way to the very seemingly very subtle things that you're doing. So, and then I can start feeling more energy moving and more parts of my body connecting with other parts that weren't so connected before. I feel much more spacious now in my body. In certain parts I feel a bit tight. And there's altogether a sense of greater well-being, I would say, that I'm certainly experiencing now and that I've experienced before receiving these wizard-like entrainments that really bring amazing results to my well-being in my body, give less pain, but even emotionally feeling brighter and happier or relieved of something, and I'm able to let go of something I wasn't able to let go of before. So it's not only from my body and my nervous system, it feels like my whole person is helped to feel more naturally whole and good. And then I'm able to go out back in the world and respond to life with greater capacity and with more heart even. So yeah, I'm really grateful and amazed. How do you do this? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Such a pleasure.